You know, if you've got a Pomeranian, a Chihuahua, or a Maltese, there's this one particular sound that can just make your heart drop. It's that dry, hacking cough. And it's so much more than just a little noise. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that cough is such a critical warning sign, and more importantly, what you can do about it before it's too late.
Yeah, that sound. That harsh, kind of honking cough that sounds like a goose is trapped in your tiny dog's body. It's a sound that owners of these small breeds absolutely dread hearing, and for a really good reason. It's not just some quirky habit, it is a serious distress signal coming straight from your dog's airway. Now, it's so easy to just brush it off, right? To think, oh, he's just got a little cold, or even worse, to think, well, it's genetic, they're just prone to this, there's really nothing I can do. But what if I told you that both of those ideas are not just wrong, but dangerously wrong? What if that little cough is actually the final, audible sign of a destructive process that's been quietly happening for years? Okay, so first things first, let's completely reframe what that cough actually is. It's not really the problem itself. Think of it more as the alarm bell for a much, much deeper issue that's just about to reach its breaking point. See, for these smaller breeds, a lot of them are born with tracheal cartilage that's just a little bit weaker, a little more delicate. For them, this dry cough is the most serious red flag you can get. You're not just hearing a cough, you are literally hearing the prelude to tracheal collapse. It's a sign that the very structure of their airway is starting to fail. So this begs the question, right? How does a trachea that seems perfectly fine when a dog is, say, 3 years old, suddenly start to give out when they're 7 or 8? Well, the answer is hidden in this destructive, vicious cycle that causes damage slowly over a very long time. And here's what's so fascinating. While genetics definitely play a part, tracheal collapse is not some unavoidable destiny written in their DNA. It's actually the end result of years and years of two very different kinds of attacks that have been happening inside your dog's throat. And this really gets us to the heart of the matter. The trachea is being weakened by a two-pronged attack. One is chemical, and the other is physical. Let's dig into exactly how this works. So, on one side, you have this chemical attack that is, and I mean this quite literally, melting the cartilage from the inside out. Then, on the other side, you've got a physical attack that's hammering that same now weakened cartilage with the explosive force of every single cough. The main bad guy in this chemical attack is an enzyme called MMP. The easiest way to think of it is as a tiny chemical weapon. Now, it's released by inflammatory cells to fight off germs, which is normally a good thing. But when you have chronic, long-term inflammation, the body just goes into overdrive and produces way, way too much of it. And the result is pretty devastating. Those excess MMP enzymes, they don't know when to stop. They start dissolving the very collagen that gives the tracheal cartilage its strength and its structure. So the cartilage, which is supposed to be firm and hold its shape, it just starts to soften and melt, becoming weak and floppy. Now let's add the physical attack on top of that. Every single one of those goose honk coughs creates this massive, explosive pressure change that slams against that now softened cartilage. It's called the hammering effect. I mean, just imagine hitting a wall with a hammer hundreds of times a day for years. Sooner or later, it's going to buckle. That's what's happening to the trachea. Okay, so that's the problem. It's this scary 1-2 punch of chemical melting and physical hammering. But the good news is, by understanding this cycle, we can approach the solution in a totally new way. We have to shift our entire mindset from just managing the symptom to actually rebuilding the body's natural shield. And this is so, so important. The old way of just using cough suppressants, that's like turning off a fire alarm while the house is still burning down. The new goal isn't just to make it quiet. It's to repair the trachea's protective lining to stop the damage dead in its tracks before the collapse becomes permanent. So, how do we do that? Well, this new strategy is called cell membrane resuscitation, and it's brilliant. First, it focuses on rebuilding that shield. It actually recoats the tracheal lining to physically block those destructive MMP enzymes. Second, it soothes the nerves. By hydrating the whole area, it calms down the cough receptors, which means less hammering. And finally, it revives the whole environment by giving the cells the nutrients they desperately need to start healing themselves. So this really leads us to a whole new way of thinking, a new paradigm for how we care for these amazing little dogs. It's all about shifting from reactive treatment to proactive preventative medicine.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Number one, don't just try to quiet the cough. Your goal is to protect the cartilage. Number two, jumping on this at the very first sign of that dry cough is absolutely crucial to stopping that vicious cycle. And finally, you have to see this as essential preventative care. You're not just stopping a noise, you're making sure your best friend can breathe freely and live comfortably for their entire life. So the next time you hear that sound, please don't just dismiss it. Remember what's really going on inside. Because the real goal here isn't just about stopping a noise, it's about preventing the absolute tragedy of a collapsed airway. And the question we all have to ask is, are we listening to the warning before it's too late?